I'm in my 50s now, and there is something I need to tell you. Not everything you carry through life is meant to stay with you forever. Some things feel precious, some feel necessary, some become so familiar that you stop questioning why you are still holding on to them. But over time, I learned something painful. Not everything we keep is helping us. Some things slowly drain our time, our energy, and our peace. And do you know what hurts the most? It's not losing those things. It's realizing, much too late, that you should have let them go long ago. So, if you are getting closer to retirement, or even just starting to think differently about the life you want, listen to me carefully. This is not just advice, it's a warning, because there are 10 things you may need to let go of before time starts letting go of you. The first thing you may need to let go of is the house that no longer fits your life. I know how difficult that is, especially if it's the house where you raised your children, the house where birthdays were celebrated, tears were shed, laughter filled the rooms, and family memories were made. I once had a friend named Walter Bennett. He had a large home just outside a small town, with a wide yard and plenty of space. It was the house where all 5 of his children grew up. But as the years passed, his children moved away, and eventually he was living there alone. 3 bedrooms were never opened anymore. There was a staircase his body no longer wanted to climb, and the yard he once loved became too much to manage. His children kept telling him, "Dad, please, move closer to us. You shouldn't be there all by yourself." But he always refused. He would say, "This is where all our memories are." Then one day, he slipped on the stairs, and after that, he never returned to that house. I want you to remember something. A house is only wood, walls, windows, and rooms. But memories are not trapped there. You carry them with you. So if the place you live in has become heavier than it is comforting, if it asks more from you than it gives back, maybe it's time to let it go. The second thing you must stop carrying is the problems of your grown children. I know how hard that is. When you're a parent, your children are always your children. It doesn't matter how old they get. It doesn't matter if they have careers, homes, or families of their own. Part of you will always want to protect them. I understand that because I've lived it. There was a season in my life when my oldest son came to me for everything: money problems, work problems, difficult decisions. And every time I stepped in, I fixed what I could. I carried what I could. I solved things before he ever had to face them fully. Then one day, someone said something to me that stung. "You're not helping him. You're teaching him to depend on you." It hurt because it was true. So I stopped stepping in every single time. Not because I stopped loving him, but because I loved him enough to stop rescuing him. For a while, that created distance between us. There were months when things felt strained, but eventually he learned. He became stronger. He learned how to stand on his own 2 feet, and that taught me something. Not every kind of help is kindness. Sometimes real love means letting people struggle enough to grow. The third thing you may need to let go of is expensive things you no longer use. Look around your home. How many things are sitting there untouched? Things you haven't used in years, but you still can't seem to part with. Maybe you tell yourself, "It costs too much. It would be a waste. Maybe I'll use it again someday." I used to think like that too. I knew a man named Robert Hayes. He owned a beautiful boat. It was well kept, expensive, and every time he talked about it, he said it made him happy. But in truth, he barely used it, maybe a few times a year, and yet every month it demanded something from him: maintenance, storage, repairs, insurance, worry. One day I asked him, "Robert, when was the last time you actually took that boat out?" He went quiet, and in that silence he realized something. The boat was giving him less joy than stress. So he sold it, and afterward he told me, "I feel lighter." That's what unused things do. They don't just sit in your garage or your closet. They sit in your mind. They quietly take up space in your life. So if you're holding on to things you no longer use, but they still cost you time, money, or peace, maybe it's time to let them go. The fourth thing you may need to let go of is the vehicle you no longer need. This sounds simple, but so many people avoid it. If you're no longer commuting every day, if you spend most of your time at home now, ask yourself honestly, do you really need 2 cars? There was an older retired couple in my neighborhood once. They had 2 cars, but only one was ever used. The other just sat in the garage, week after week, month after month. Dust gathered. The battery kept dying. The car barely moved. And still, they kept paying for it. Registration, maintenance, insurance, repairs, all for something they almost never used. Eventually, they sold it. And with the money, they took a trip they had been putting off for years. Nothing extravagant, just a quiet getaway by the ocean. They walked by the water, hand in hand, peaceful and happy. And I remember thinking, sometimes we don't need more things. Sometimes we need more memories. So if something is no longer useful, but it still keeps taking from you, maybe it's time to exchange it for an experience you'll actually remember. The fifth thing you must learn to let go of is your identity being tied only to your work. This one is harder than people expect because it sneaks up on you. Over the years, people begin to know you by what you do. She's the teacher. She's the nurse. She's the manager. She runs the business. She's the one everyone depends on. And little by little, you start to believe that what you do is who you are. Until one day, life changes. Maybe you retire. Maybe you step back. Maybe the pace slows down. And suddenly something feels missing. I remember waking up one morning and realizing no one was waiting for my response, my help, or my presence in the same way. And instead of peace, I felt emptiness. I felt as if part of me had disappeared. That feeling was quiet but heavy. But over time, I learned something important. I'm not my job. My worth does not begin and end with my work. Who I am is bigger than my title. So before you leave that chapter behind, start asking yourself, who am I outside of what I do? Because if you don't, the day your work changes, you may feel as though you've disappeared too. The sixth thing you need to let go of is old resentment. How many years have you carried anger in your heart? Bitterness, pride, an old wound that never really healed. I had someone like that in my life too, a relative. We didn't speak for nearly 30 years. And if I'm honest, after all that time, I could barely remember why it even started. That's the strange thing about long-held anger. At first it feels justified, but after enough years pass, the reason fades, and all that remains is the habit of staying hurt. I carried that silence for years. Then one day, I heard the news. That person was gone. And in that moment, I realized something that broke me. There would be no conversation, no apology, no second chance. I would never get to say, I'm sorry. I would never get those wasted years back. That pain was heavier than the anger itself, because anger can be released, but time cannot be recovered. So if there is someone you're no longer speaking to, ask yourself honestly, is this distance really worth the time it's costing me? Sometimes, pride is the most expensive thing we hold on to, and it gives us nothing in return. Let go, not just for them, for your own peace. The seventh thing you need to let go of is worrying about what other people think. How much of your life have you wasted doing that? Worrying about what people might say, how they might judge you, what they think about your choices, your life, your appearance, your mistakes, your dreams. I lived that way too. I was afraid of judgment, afraid of being talked about, afraid of not being enough in someone else's eyes. But eventually, I got tired of shaping my life around the opinions of people who were never truly carrying my burdens. And here's the truth. Most people are not thinking about you as much as you think they are. They are busy thinking about themselves, their own insecurities, their own worries, their own fears about being judged. And while you're holding yourself back because of them, life keeps moving. There are choices I didn't make because I was afraid, things I didn't do, parts of myself I kept hidden. And some of those lost chances still ache when I think about them. So if there's something you want to do, someone you want to love, some version of yourself you want to become, don't let fear of other people's opinions stop you. Their opinions will not be the thing that brings you peace at the end of the day. The eighth thing you need to let go of is the need to control everything. I understand this one deeply, especially when it comes to family, your children, your grandchildren, the people you love most. You want to protect them. You want to guide them, prevent mistakes, keep them from pain. But sometimes when you hold on too tightly, people don't feel protected. They feel trapped. I remember a time when my daughter was making decisions I didn't agree with. And instead of listening, I kept trying to control the outcome. I pushed. I corrected. I wanted her to follow the path I believed was best. Then one day, she looked at me and said, "Mum, will you please let me learn from my own life?" That hurt, but it was true. You cannot control everything, and you are not meant to. Every person has their own path, their own mistakes, their own lessons, their own growth. If you hold people too tightly, they may pull away. But if you trust them, if you give them room to become who they need to become, they may come back to you with love instead of distance. Because real love is not control. Real love is trust. Trust them, and trust the way you raised them. The ninth thing you need to let go of is perfection. Do you know how many nights I wasted replaying tiny mistakes in my mind? Little things that no one else probably even noticed. But I noticed, and I couldn't let them go. A word said imperfectly, a plan that didn't unfold the way I wanted, a moment that fell short of my expectations. For years I thought everything had to be just right, everything had to be polished, safe, careful, correct. But over time, I learned that perfection doesn't move your life forward. It keeps you frozen. I was so afraid of getting things wrong that sometimes I didn't begin at all. And because of that, opportunities passed by. Now I understand something I wish I had understood much sooner. You do not need to be perfect to live well. You just need to keep going, keep trying, keep learning, keep moving. Life is not about getting everything exactly right. It's about continuing, even when things are messy. Because if you wait for the perfect time, the perfect plan, the perfect version of yourself, you may never begin. And one day you may look back and say, I wish I had tried. Don't wait for that moment. Start now. Even if it's imperfect, even if you're afraid, even if you make mistakes. Because in the end, what you actually did will matter far more than what you only meant to do. The final thing you need to let go of is the word someday. How many times have you said that to yourself? Someday, I'll take that trip. Someday, I'll make that phone call. Someday, I'll visit them. Someday, I'll tell them how much I love them. Someday, I'll finally start living the way I want. I used to say those things too. I had a quiet list in my mind of all the things I would do later, when life settled down, when I had more time, when the moment felt right. But do you know what I learned? Someday does not arrive. It just quietly steals your time while making you believe there will always be more of it. There are things I didn't do, words I didn't say soon enough, and by the time I was ready, in some cases it was already too late. That kind of pain stays with you, knowing you could have done something, you could have said something, but you kept postponing it. So if there is something in your heart right now, don't wait. Do it now, not tomorrow, not next month, not when life becomes easier, now. Because there is no date on the calendar called someday. There is only today. And today is the only moment you truly hold in your hands. I'm not saying all of this to scare you. I'm saying it because I don't want you to carry the same regrets I still carry. Life is not about how much you can hold on to. It's about what you are wise enough and brave enough to release. Because sometimes peace begins the moment you stop carrying what was never meant to stay with you forever. So if even one thing came to your mind while listening to this, one burden, one fear, one old wound, one possession, one regret, one dream you keep postponing, don't ignore it. Start today. Because while you are waiting for the right time, time is quietly moving on. And if you made it this far, I want to hear from you. What is one thing you are finally ready to let go of? Write it in the comments. And if this story touched something in your heart, if it made you pause, if it made you see your life a little differently, then subscribe and stay with me for more stories that may change the way you look at life. And remember this, you are not too late, not yet, but don't wait until everything is already slipping away to realize what you should have let go of long ago.